It was just past 6:45 p.m. in the quiet town of Hillspring. The flickering neon light above Granger's grocery hummed like a tired lullaby, casting long shadows across the worn tiles inside. Sarah, a 32-year-old cashier with tired eyes and a heart much too soft for the world she lived in, was nearing the end of her shift. She was counting the minutes when the bell above the door jingled, and that's when she saw him. A boy, maybe 9 or 10, skinny, shoelaces undone, hair unkempt, clothes a size too small. He didn't walk like other kids. He drifted, almost like a ghost. His eyes weren't looking for candy or toys. They were fixed on a loaf of bread. And in that moment, Sarah's heart broke. "Can I help you, sweetie?" she asked gently, but the boy didn't respond. Instead, he reached for the bread. His fingers trembled. Then he bolted. Out the door. Gone. The store's manager, Mr. Calvin Briggs, was already fuming. A tall, gray-haired man with a sharp tongue and sharper ego. He stormed from his office the moment the security alarm beeped. "You let him run off with a whole loaf of bread?" Briggs snapped. "He was just a kid," Sarah defended. "He looked hungry." Briggs scoffed. "That's theft. Doesn't matter if it's a child or a grown man. That's coming out of your paycheck." Sarah opened her mouth but said nothing. She knew it wouldn't help. Rules. That's all Briggs lived by. No grace. No gray areas. But Sarah? She saw the boy's ribs through his shirt. She saw desperation. And she saw herself years ago, when her mom worked double shifts just to put food on the table. Later that night, as Sarah locked up, she noticed something strange. A black SUV parked across the street, its headlights off, engine running. Someone inside, watching. She squinted, uneasy, but then shrugged it off. Just coincidence, she thought. The next morning she'd learn it wasn't. The bell above the door didn't ring this time. It was kicked open. Bang. Sarah flinched as 4 men in dark suits stormed in. Sunglasses, earpieces, stern faces. Federal Bureau of Investigation. One barked, flashing a badge. "We need to speak to the cashier from last night." Briggs rushed out, panicked. What's going on? Is this about the boy?" "Yes," the agent said. "And we need to see the security footage immediately." Sarah's blood ran cold. She had let the boy go. Had she unknowingly become part of a crime? Or worse, endangered the boy? The FBI agents crowded into the back office. They plugged in a flash drive and overlaid an enhanced image from street surveillance. The little boy, his face now side by side with a photo in a federal database. Agent Carter turned to Sarah. "Do you know who that boy is?" Sarah shook her head, heart pounding. "That boy," the agent said, "is Alexei Myrov." Sarah blinked. "What?" "He's the missing grandson of Viktor Myrov, one of the most powerful billionaires in Eastern Europe. Disappeared 6 months ago. Presumed kidnapped. There's a $10 million bounty for his safe return." Sarah staggered back. What? All she gave him was a loaf of bread. Now the world was watching. By noon, the store was surrounded. News vans, reporters, flashing lights, helicopters overhead, all because a woman gave a hungry boy a loaf of bread. Sarah stood behind the counter, frozen. Just last night, she was invisible. Today, she was national news. Briggs looked pale as he clutched the counter. "They're saying your name on TV. You touched him. The boy." "I didn't touch him. I just let him go," Sarah whispered. "But what if they think you're involved? What if they think you knew who he was?" She hadn't. She was just being human. But the world didn't run on compassion anymore. It ran on assumptions. Hours later, Sarah was taken in for questioning. Not arrested, not yet. Just detained for clarity. She sat across from Agent Carter in a cold, windowless room. "I need you to think hard," he said. "Did the boy say anything? A name, a location, anything unusual?" "No," Sarah said softly. "He didn't say a word. But what?" She hesitated. "There was a tattoo," she said. "Faded, on his wrist. It looked like a lion with a crown." Agent Carter's face went still. Then he stood and left without a word. The tattoo was a symbol of the Iron Crown, an elite Russian-based protection syndicate rumored to smuggle, spy, and eliminate threats for the rich and powerful. If the boy had that mark, it meant something terrible. He hadn't escaped kidnappers. He was born into them. Meanwhile, a woman in a gray coat sat watching the footage on her tablet. She was in a private suite atop a five-star hotel in D.C. She zoomed in on Sarah's face, then smiled. "She has no idea what she just did," the woman murmured to her assistant. "Tell Myra we found the boy." "And the cashier?" The woman sipped her wine. "She's the key." Sarah returned home late, only to find her apartment door slightly open. Her breath caught. Slowly, she stepped inside. And there he was, sitting at her table. The boy. "Alexei, why are you here?" she whispered. "I saw your eyes," he said in perfect English. They were kind. Tears welled up in Sarah's. "But you're the grandson of Viktor Myrov. Why are you running? I don't want to be like them." Then he reached into his hoodie and pulled out a flash drive. "This has everything," he said. "The names, the codes, the crimes. My grandfather, his empire." Sarah stared at it. A single loaf of bread had opened the gates to a war. Sarah took the boy to the only place she knew might help. Her old college friend Marcus, now a cybersecurity analyst. "What's on this drive could collapse empires," Marcus said after plugging it in. "Wire transfers, kidnappings, a list of assets used to blackmail world leaders, and payments to U.S. politicians." "I can't keep this," Sarah whispered. But she already had. Back at the store, Briggs was questioned by local authorities. He'd heard about the footage, about the boy. He saw a chance. Fame. Interviews. The man who employed the hero Cashier. Briggs changed his tune. Overnight, he spoke to the media. Sarah always had a strong moral compass. "I'm proud of her." The man who tried to duck bread from her paycheck now called her an icon. Later that night, Marcus's apartment was broken into. He was gone, his computers wiped. Sarah and Alexei ran. Through alleys, buses, motels. The FBI wasn't the only one looking now. There were men who wanted that flash drive destroyed, and they would stop at nothing. With no other option, Sarah made a bold move. She reached out to the press. "If anything happens to me or the boy," she said in a recorded video, "the contents of this drive will go public." Within 12 hours, the video had 3.8 million views. Viktor Myrov saw it, and for the first time in decades, he felt cornered. As they hit an abandoned church outside town, Sarah asked Alexei, "What do you want out of all this?" He didn't hesitate. A normal life. School. Friends. A dog. Bread that isn't stolen. Sarah smiled through her tears. "You deserve that." She didn't know what would happen next, but she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let him go back. At dawn, Sarah found a plain white envelope slipped under the church door. No stamp. No name. Inside, a single photograph. Marcus, tied to a chair, bruised, afraid, and underneath, the words, "Return the boy, or he disappears." Sarah's hands trembled. Alexei looked up at her, silent. They both knew this wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Alexei, however, had one last card to play. "There's something no one knows," he said. "When I escaped, I knew they'd trace my data, so I hit a backup." Sarah blinked. "Where?" He reached into his jacket, pulled out a crumpled wrapper, the exact kind that wrapped the loaf of bread she gave him. "It's encoded inside this barcode, a microdot chip, hidden in plain sight." Sarah exhaled. The truth wasn't in some encrypted database. It was inside a loaf of bread. Irony, it seemed, had a dark sense of humor. While the FBI combed the town, Agent Carter reviewed Sarah's interrogation footage again. There was something in her eyes. Not fear, not deceit, conviction. He ordered a background check on Viktor Myrov. It was unusually restricted. Then, at 3:17 p.m., Carter's clearance was revoked by someone inside the agency. He leaned back, stunned. Sarah hadn't just stumbled into a kidnapping. She'd tripped into a nest of corruption that reached the heart of government. The media turned. Hard. Cashier on the run with billionaire's grandson, the headline screamed. Sarah was now labeled a kidnapper, a fugitive. Alexei was being manipulated. Briggs went on national TV and said she was always unstable. I try to warn people. The man who once punished her for giving bread now sold his lives for profit. Agent Carter, acting on instinct, ignored protocol. He tracked Sarah's old emergency contact, listed from years ago, her aunt's farm nestled deep in Blue Pine Hills. There he found them, Sarah and Alexei, huddled in a barn, tired, cold, still holding the bread wrapper. I'm not here to arrest you, Carter said, raising his hands. I'm here because the truth's bigger than you know. Sarah eyed him carefully. Why would you help us? Because my oath was a justice, Carter said, not to traitors hiding behind flags. Thousands of miles away, Victor Myrov stared at his desk in silence. His empire was cracking. Politicians were asking questions. Wire transfers were being frozen. He looked at the woman in gray beside him. Eliminate the boy, and the woman. Quietly, the woman bowed and smiled. That night, Sarah, Carter, and Alexei watched as a military drone hovered over the hillside. Carter's comms buzzed. A red flag protocol code. An illegal strike had been authorized against a domestic target. This is bigger than the FBI now, Carter muttered. We need to go public with everything. With Carter's connections, they reached out to a secretive hacktivist group called Illumin, a digital ghost squad. One of them, a woman named Vale, agreed to help. She embedded the data inside trending videos, tweets, PDFs, disguised in memes. The entire conspiracy spread like wildfire, and suddenly, Victor's secrets were everywhere. At 8:03 a.m., Victor Meyer was arrested in a surprise Interpol raid in Geneva. News anchors stuttered. Billionaire, philanthropist, media mogul, taken in like a petty thief. But more shocking, several U.S. senators and global CEOs resigned within hours, all implicated. The world spun, and at the center of it, a loaf of bread. Despite everything, Sarah was still charged for abduction, for endangering a minor. The courtroom was full. Reporters, cameras, protesters. Alexei took the stand. I ran away, he said firmly. She saved me. The judge leaned forward. Why did you run? Alexei's voice cracked. Because my family isn't family. They're criminals. Silence. The judge ruled. All charges against Sarah Harding are dropped. Tears streamed down her face. Justice had a price, but it finally arrived. Within 72 hours of Victor Meyer's arrest, the world changed. His offshore accounts, frozen. His media empires, dissolved. His lawyers, gone silent. But one moment cut deeper than the rest. A photo taken from inside the courtroom. It showed Alexei, smiling, hugging Sarah tightly. A global symbol of humanity triumphing over cruelty. The woman who gave a starving boy bread had helped bring down an empire. Meanwhile, Briggs returned to his daily grind. Granger's grocery stayed open, but business had dipped. Locals started whispering about how he turned on Sarah, lied on TV, and tried to profit. Then one day, a man entered the store, wearing a tailored suit, clean, polished shoes. Briggs smirked. Can I help you? The man pulled out a business card. Agent Seth Monroe, Internal Affairs Division, FBI. We're investigating your recent media statements for perjury and obstruction. You may want to call your lawyer. Briggs turned pale. For once, he had no price tag to hide behind. Sarah didn't want fame, but it found her anyway. TV appearances, awards, book deals. She turned most of it down. Instead, she took a job at a local shelter, cooking meals, teaching teens to survive, listening to kids the world ignored. Alexei, he started school under protection. He loved it, made friends, adopted a rescue dog, named it Toast. Of course he did. Months later, Sarah launched a nonprofit with Carter and veil from Illumin, the Bread Foundation. Its mission? Feed the hungry, fund whistleblowers, and support underdogs who dare to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. First donation? $1 million. From an anonymous Swiss account, signed simply, M. In a final twist, Agent Carter returned to FBI headquarters one evening and found a sealed folder on his desk. Inside, redacted documents. One page stood out. Operation Lion Seed. It detailed a decades-old project where the Myra family attempted to embed influence inside major Western governments using their own family members, including Alexei. But instead of being a pawn, he ran and found the one person willing to break the rules for the right reasons. Narrator voiceover. Sarah often sat alone some nights, not in sadness, but in reflection. She thought about how it all started. Just a boy and a loaf of bread. One moment of compassion. One small rebellion against a cruel world. And how that one act rippled across borders, shattered dynasties, and lit a fire in the hearts of millions. Months later, Sarah was interviewed live on national TV. The anchor asked, "Do you regret helping that boy?" Sarah smiled. "No, I regret living in a world where helping a hungry child is considered a crime." "And what would you say to people who say you just got lucky?" Sarah looked directly into the camera. "I didn't get lucky. I got brave." Narrator voiceover. There's a kind of courage that doesn't roar. It doesn't wear a badge, or hold a gavel, or sit in a marble office. Sometimes it's just a tired cashier who gives a boy bread, not because she expects thanks, not because she seeks fame, but because her heart won't let her do anything else. And in a world that often punishes kindness, that kind of courage can change everything. The bakery near Sarah's home had a new mural painted on the side. It showed a woman handing bread to a child. Below it, words were stenciled in bold. Do the right thing, even if it costs you everything. Alexei visited it every week and left a flower at the foot.